Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this Honpa Hongwanji Hawaii Betsuin online Sunday service. My name is Reverend Shingo Furusawa, one of the associate ministers of the Hawaii Betsuin. Let us start this service with the chanting of Vandana and Ti-Sarana. Before my message, I would like to read a passage of the Tannisho. Please put your hands together in Gassho. When I consider deeply the vow of Amida, which arose from five purposes of profound thought, I realized that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. Then, how I am filled with gratitude for the primal vow, in which Amida resolved to save me, though I am burdened with such heavy karma. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo. Today, I'd like to talk about be aware of true self. Buddhism teaches us that knowing ourselves is important. There is a story of Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, as quoted from the Buddhist scriptures that I would like to tell you about. One day, when the Buddha was resting in the shade of a tree, some noblemen and their families were having a party near the grove. Within the group, a bachelor invited the woman as his guest. When others fell asleep, the woman stole their valuables and ran away. On awakening, everyone was shocked and searched for the woman. When they met Shakyamuni Buddha, they asked whether he had seen a suspicious woman go by. Shakyamuni said to them, I understand the situation, but which is more important, finding that woman or finding yourself? Hearing the Buddha, their eyes were opened. They sat down, and after listening to Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings, all became his disciples. In this way, Buddhism teaches us that it's very important for us to know about ourselves. However, it's not easy for us to know ourselves. We can see others easily, but we have difficulty seeing ourselves. Some years ago, I went to a restaurant with a friend. After sitting down, he looked at my face and said to me, Hey Shingo, dirt is attached on your face. I was surprised and rushed to remove it. He laughed and said, Ha ha ha, you are so foolish. I was disgusted, but seeing him, I also found dirt on his face. So I also said to him, Hey, dirt is attached to your face too. Listening to me, he was also surprised and rushed to remove it. Both he and I could see each other's face, but neither of us could see ourselves. In this way, it's easy for us to see others, but it's very difficult to see ourselves. I will introduce other examples of how difficult it is to see ourselves. In Japan, many houses have the shoji doors. Shoji is a special paper that is attached to a door. One day, while looking at the neighbor's house, the person said, The neighbor left the shoji door at home. They are so careless. However, the person looks at the neighbor's house through the tone shows door. When working, I often wear the necktie. One day, after meeting, when looking in the mirror, I found that my necktie was twisted. So I felt very embarrassed. In this way, it's easy to see others, but we tend to be blind when looking at ourselves. We have difficulty even when we see the outside surface of ourselves. It's extremely difficult for us to see inside of ourselves. How should we know about ourselves? In order to see ourselves, we need to use the mirror. Amida Buddha's teachings are often compared to the mirror. Through listening to the Buddha's teachings, like the mirror, we can know who we are. In his work titled Ichinen Tanen Moni, or Notes on One Calling and Many Calling, Shinran Shonin, the founder of Shin Buddhism, wrote as follows: We are full of ignorance and blind passion. Our desires are countless, and anger, wrath, jealousy, and envy are overwhelming, arising without pause. To the very last moment of life, they do not cease, or disappear, or exhaust themselves. In the passage, Shinran Shonin reveals to us that we all have the blind passions, such as greed, jealousy, envy, and anger. We always say, I want this, I want that. Even though we can get the things what we want and are satisfied, our satisfaction is temporary. After that, we will want that we do not. That is, our greed is limitless. We tend to feel envy and jealousy to the people who have things that we do not possess. Also, if someone prevents us from getting the things that we wish for, we will get angry. We tend to be controlled by our blind passions and to be ignorant of the truth in this world. It's our true nature that we are bound to the blind passions and we cannot remove them. You may feel that Shinran Shonin's statement of the Ichinen Tanen Moi is negative, but he also wrote as follows: Go a step or two, little by little, along the white path of the power of the vow. We are taken in and held by the compassionate heart of the Buddha of unhindered light. The white path of the power of the vow teaches us to rely on Amida Buddha that works to liberate all of us from our sufferings. Shinran Shonin encourages us to take refuge in Amida Buddha because the Buddha's light always illuminates us all. In order to explain about Amida Buddha's light, I would like to introduce another passage from the Sho Shinge written by Shinran Shonin. Also, I too am within Amida's grasp. Passions obstruct my eyes, and I cannot see the light. Nevertheless, great compassion is untiring, and illumines me always. Passions are referring to our blind passions. The light is Amida Buddha's compassionate light. Even though the Buddha's light always illuminates us, we have difficulty seeing this light due to our blind passions. However, even if we cannot see the light, the Buddha never forsakes us, entirely illuminating us all. In our daily lives, even though we cannot see sunshine itself, if we can find the shadow, we know the sun is present. Our blind passions are like the shadow. In this passage, Shinran Shonin teaches us that Amida Buddha's compassionate light continues to illuminate us, in spite of how we are filled with blind passions. In this way, we can be aware of our true nature, that we always possess the blind passions through Amida Buddha's light. At the beginning of this message, I read a passage from Tan Nisho, or a record in lament of divergences. Tan Nisho is a record of Shinran Shonin's teachings. I would like to read the passage again. When I consider deeply the vow of Amida, which arose from 5 kalpas of profound thought, I realized that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. Then how I am filled with gratitude for the primal vow, in which Amida resolved to save me, though I am burdened with such heavy karma. Please understand that 5 kalpas mean extremely long times. In this passage, Shinran Shonin reveals that Amida Buddha took 5 kalpas in resolving to liberate us from our sufferings. Listening to the story, you may think that it's like a fairy tale. But please think that the Buddha's thinking in 5 kalpas implies that no matter how difficult, even the Buddha saves us all. That is, this passage reveals about our true nature, and the Buddha saves us even though we cannot remove our blind passions. Also, if we can know about ourselves through Amida's compassion, we can be grateful for the Buddha. Even if we are always the recipient of the Buddha's limitless compassion, let us not be careless with our blind passions. For Shinran Shonin taught us, even if we have an antidote, we must not take the poison. In this parable, the antidote is a metaphor for Amida Buddha's compassion, and the poison represents our blind passions. In other words, even though the Buddha's compassion is an antidote, which is always available to us, we must not be indulged in poisons such as our blind passions. As I said, Amida Buddha's teachings are like a mirror. For example, even if our necktie is twisted, we can find the twist by looking in the mirror and can fix it. If we can be aware of ourselves through the Buddha's teachings, we should try our best to improve ourselves as much as possible. Since last year, we have had hardships and difficulties due to the COVID-19. When we have difficulties, we tend to be controlled by our blind passions. Let us reflect on ourselves through listening to Amida Buddha's teachings and get through this situation with gratitude to the Buddha's untiring compassion. Thank you very much for listening to this message. Thank you so much. In closing, let us recite the Nembutsu. Please put your hands together in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabu, 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 Namandabu. Namandabu, Namandabu, Namandabu. Namandabu, Namandabu, Namandabu. Namandabu, 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 Namandabu. Namandabu, Namandabu. Again, thank you very much for joining us in this Sunday service. The next Honpa Hongwanji Hawaii Betsuin online Sunday service will be held on February 28 at 10 a.m. In closing, let us recite the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabu, Namandabu, Namandabu.